These are my brutally honest first impressions of the Marathon Alpha, broken up into the following categories: gunplay, movement, the loot and extraction loop, puzzles and secrets, sound, story, and then my overall thoughts. Starting with gunplay, this one's interesting because I think your first impression of the gunplay in Marathon is actually really negative, even though there's a lot to like there. Let me explain. When you first start playing Marathon, you're going to be using gray rarity weapons, which means they've got no attachments, they're just plain and simple base version of the weapon, and quite frankly, they feel horrible. The ADS time is extremely sluggish and slow. They don't really feel like they do much damage. Meanwhile, other people shooting you with higher rarity weapons or just the bots in the game are absolutely chunking your health bar, and so you feel really ineffective. And this is not a good first impression, but luckily, that is just while you have gray rarity loot. And so long as you as a player persist through that initial feeling of, oh my god, why does this feel so sluggish? You'll then start to pick up other weapons that will feel better overall, will do more damage, etc. And a lot of the concerns about the gunplay start to fade away a little bit. I think overall, I'm mostly happy with how the guns perform and feel in the game right now. I have repeatedly felt like I get in a lot of situations where I am pretty much matched with my opponent in terms of potential damage output. And because of the fact that you've got this magic mouse movement that basically acts as mouse aim assist, you often don't find that one person's tracking is better than another's, and that's what causes you to win a gunfight. And so you sort of end up in scenarios where you're basically looking at another player and you're just both holding left click on each other and then you both die. Or like one of you survives with like 1 HP. But it doesn't really feel like there's that much room in those moments to completely outskill someone with like a crazy build or outskill them with crazy tracking. Like it feels a little bit two-dimensional, really, maybe. But they're turning off mouse magic movement aim assist this week, so we'll see if that makes a difference on that front. And I'm sure also as I get a better familiarity with some of the higher rarity weapons in the game and specific attachments as well, that might start then more meaningfully contributing to being the difference maker in those gunfights. And that's something that I really hope does happen, because as it stands right now, the gunplay is fine, like I've said, but it's not the thing that kind of excites me about the game. And I think that Bungie usually design really fun feeling gunplay systems, and I'd like to see that really become more apparent in Marathon. In the movement category, it's a similar story. When you start off, you're gonna feel very slow. You're gonna feel like your heat level, which is basically an inverse stamina bar, is constantly maxing out, and you constantly have to wait for it to cool down, and you're constantly having to walk as a result. It's just a bit annoying, like doing one slide and then realizing that you've charged 40% of your heat bar because of that in one go. And it's another one where I think the first impression is maybe a little deceptive, because you'll start off and you're like, okay, I'm using way too much heat here and like this is so frustrating. But then when you think about it and you get in some gunfights and you see how the world moves around you as you play, I think it starts to become a bit more apparent why Bungie have designed the game this way. If we had infinite room to jiggle peek all over the place and to be constantly just like max sprint, tac sprint, all kinds of crazy sprint, jumping up and down, doing all sorts of parkour without any penalty, the game would start to feel a little bit more similar to a game where that sort of fast twitch movement almost is the primary focus. Like in Apex Legends, for instance, has so much to its movement and to the tracking that you need to be able to do in your gunplay for sure, because of the fact that people can be sort of zipping around and zooming around to such a great degree. And if Marathon was like that, it'd be a very different game. And I think it would be a game that I'd like less. So as much as initially I was like, oh, this movement feels horrible, I've sort of realized I need it to feel slow, because otherwise I'm playing a different game at the end of the day. And I like the game that they've designed, and I want them to continue to lean into that and for it to be tactical in that way, maybe prioritizing your general positioning over your moment-to-moment positioning during a specific moment where you're beaming another player. And so I think in general, I like the movement. It's not something that I'm like absolutely frothing at the mouth about. Like I'm not like here being completely mind blown by the movement or the gunplay, but I think they're in a pretty good place, especially for an alpha. Now, a fix, I think, for the initial impression problem of the gunplay and the movement just feeling a bit weird and sluggish because of the gray rarity stuff is just to make it so that in the tutorial for the game, you give the player like gold rarity loot on everything, or maybe you start them for the first half of the tutorial on the terrible loot, and then you give them the good loot and show them this game does have a really polished movement system, for instance, or gunplay system. It's just that you need the loot to get there, right? Like, you need to show people that that's possible. Otherwise, they're just going to go, oh, Marathon's gunplay feels like ass, because they're only going to see the gray loot, and then they're going to write off the rest of the game and then uninstall, right? So I think that would be a really smart fix to help prevent this from being an existential problem for the game's longevity, and for onboarding new players especially. Now that brings us to the loot and extraction loop, and this is something that I've not seen the full extent of yet, and I think most people haven't seen the full extent of because very few people are actually getting more than one gold item, or like 1 or 2 gold items. Like, those things are really few and far between. So it's difficult to properly assess the breadth of the system while I haven't seen it all. But this is a first impressions video. So my first impression from kind of green loot all the way to purple loot, let's say, is that it's okay. Like, it's all right. And it does feel good to get like a purple gun. I'm like, wow, I'm gonna kick ass with this. Like, this is exciting. But it has also felt like Bungie are maybe having a quite difficult time here because they don't want to make the purple loot really overpowered, because then gray loot people will never have a chance, right? But simultaneously, if you don't feel overpowered when you have your purple loot, it's sort of like, well, why am I grinding for this in the first place, you know? So they're between a rock and a hard place right now, but I still think they've actually found a pretty good balance. And I want to clarify, my initial feeling about the loot system on day one was much more negative, but I've gotten more positive because they've tweaked the loot drop table so that you get blue loot a bit more frequently now from things like bots that you kill will drop blue weapons where initially they never did that. And you'll just find blue stuff sort of out in the world a little bit more. And I think that's really good because on that first day, we were all basically stuck on green loot rarity, which was horrible. Like, it was so bad. And like blue felt like a massive achievement, but blue is not that crazy. So I like the fact that they did make that tweak. And since then, the loot systems felt appropriate. And I like where it is right now. I like the overall loop of jumping in and doing a contract and then jumping out of your game. Would I like to be able to enable more than one contract at one time? Probably. Do I want to be able to enable every single contract at one time? Maybe not. Like, maybe there is something to be said for limiting the number of contracts that you can have enabled, which is a Bungie design decision here, right? I just feel like 1 is maybe a little limited. Like, even just changing it to 2 could be a really big quality of life improvement. So I'd like to see that, but overall, I'm not going to be completely mad if it never changes. And I like the contracts. I like the way that works. I like those factions, and I like the sort of comedic slants that they have as well, where Nucaloric is telling you like, okay, you're going to need to start eating stuff, and you're going to need to start changing your definition of what counts as food. Like, it's cool to see that actually manifest in the game, seeing as the player base has already been running with all of those jokes since the ARG and making their own radio stations and separate Discord servers and websites and like all sorts. Like, that has been so cool to me. And I'm liking the fact that the source material here, the game itself, is also playing into some of those jokes a little bit as well. I guess that's me kind of segueing into story maybe. So maybe we'll just go there now. I was going to put this a little later on, but the story so far is not blowing me away, right? It's not making me go, oh my God, I need to learn everything about the marathon story immediately. But at the same time, I'm intrigued. Like, there's definitely things that are curious to me that I want to know more about. So, for example, I know that the like colony completely sort of disappeared or got wiped out or something. And not only did the humans disappear and get wiped out, but so too did the AI. And I've been talking with, I think it's Gaius about this, or I've been listening to Gaius sort of speak about this a little. And Gaius telling me like, okay, we need to go from getting human data on one side of things to also then getting AI data on the other, and then we can collate the human biased data and the objective AI data, and that can give us a sort of broader picture of what's happened. And we can begin to question like why the AI present has also disappeared just as the humans have. Like, what could cause that? I'm also intrigued by things like the anomaly. It's not something that the game has really leaned into in terms of discussion, but it's there and you can get samples from it. And I'm just like, okay, I want to dig here. Like there are little tentacles, little feelers that the game's putting out that I'm grabbing onto and going, I'm going to save that for later. Like I'm going to cook on this one. I'm going to stew on this one, and we'll see where we go in like several games time when I've done some more contracts, or when I maybe get another voiceover line from Oni when I spawn in, things along those lines. But just little feelers do not make it a full, complete, exciting story, right? Like there's more to it than just that. And so as much as I'm intrigued right now, I eagerly await feeling like I'm really tapping into a bit more of a treasure trove of that information, which I hope does happen at some point. I'm not sure when it will be. This is an alpha. It's not a complete game, obviously, but I'd like to see that happen sometime soon. But so far, I'm lukewarm to positive on what story stuff is in the game at present. Now, puzzles-wise and secrets-wise, I think Bungie maybe made a bit of a misstep in the marketing for this, because they had creators talking about their puzzles on that reveal event, with like Scarrow and Hidden Xperia and like all those folks talking about their personal experience with the game. But Bungie themselves didn't really discuss puzzles to any great extent in all of that reveal. And what it meant is the creators, in their usual excited way, were talking about all the sort of potential that they see for the game here and talking about like how cool all these puzzles were. But the problem for me now is that when I'm actually looking at what's in the game, it doesn't feel like there are any puzzles. Now, I'm being specific here about the word puzzle. There are definitely activities in the game. For example, the Tox Room, right? Which was described by creators during the reveal as being a thing where you've got to find a valve and you've got to turn it and you can go in the room and you've got 60 seconds, you've got to clear out again. Like, I get that was described almost as a puzzle because you've got to find a thing and learn that thing does the other thing, but it isn't a puzzle. It's just an activity. Like, it's marked on the map, and you can always find the little laptop that opens the Tox Room within like 5 to 10 meters of the Tox Room door. And that goes for basically all the activities in the game. Like, they're all very simple to the point that they are not puzzles in my view. And so it means that players now, I think, are sort of left in the lurch a little because they heard all these sort of comments at the reveal saying there are going to be these really cool puzzles, and now we're getting the game, and there's like no puzzle whatsoever that I'm looking at here being like, oh, that's like a lead I want to chase. Like, so far, for me at least, zero. Now, granted, I've only seen a little slither of the game. I've played maybe, I don't know, let's guess like 30 hours or something, 30, 40 hours, maybe somewhere in that region. I've played it quite a lot on stream. And like maybe there's some things in like the factions menu, like there's a horse thing in the factions, something like that. Like there's some potential stuff there maybe that I just haven't really tapped into and focused on myself yet. But from what I've seen, there's nothing in the world that is making me go like, oh my God, I need to find out how to unlock the vault combination for this door or something. I don't know. Like, that stuff is going to be essential to Marathon, in my opinion, if it's going to continue to feel like a Bungie game. And with all the stuff that they've said so far about how that is their intention, I'm waiting to see it, but I'm not really seeing it thus far. So puzzles and secrets is one of the weaker points of the game for me. It might just be that it's an alpha, and so they've purposefully taken that stuff out to not spoil it. That's fine, but if it's a crucial part of the game and it's not there, then obviously I'm going to mention that it's not there. You know what I mean? So yeah, I await that stuff with bated breath. Now, sound, I want to call out specifically here because my God, the sound in Marathon is some of my favorite video game sound of the last like 5 years for a shooter, maybe longer. I love it. I think it's so good. The overall directional sound has felt amazing so far. I pretty consistently can tell if somebody is above me, above to the side, above to the other side, my level, below me. Like, it's generally felt extremely good and extremely precise, which is so important in a game like this. And the sound design also just feels really stylized and perfectly suited to the world that they are creating. And that goes for the music, that goes for the sound effects, that goes for the ambience. Like, it's in an incredible place. So I sort of say congrats to Bungie for absolutely shredding it in this department. They've done so well. I love the sound in this game. Now, before we get to the sort of overall conclusion and thoughts, there's one other section that I want to include here, which is like problems that I want to see resolved, or just like things that I've been perturbed by. So one of them is that I keep having this issue in the game where I get into a gunfight and it almost feels like my game slows down, except I'm not dropping like crazy FPS. Like, it's not like I'm going from like 60 to like 10 FPS or something. It just feels like everything is slowing, but it's not visually slowing. It's a really hard one to describe. And I was talking to my stream about it, and one of the ways that we came up with describing it appropriately is it feels like the same sensation that you get mentally when you're playing a game with input delay, right? So like, when you're playing on a monitor or like maybe you're playing on a TV that's in like sports mode and it's not set up in game mode properly, and so there's loads of lag between you hitting your analog stick and your player actually turning, and that creates this sense of discord in your brain. Like there's a sense of dissatisfaction and just general frustration or something. There's a weird sensation that you get when you're in that scenario. Marathon feels like that, but without there actually being any input lag. I know that sounds weird, like that doesn't make any sense, but it's the sensation that I'm talking about. I keep having that. And I don't know, like it could be something as small as something in the way animations chain together, such that when I'm in a gunfight and I'm trying to execute different commands of my player at a higher frequency, the animation chains maybe have like forced completion times that mean that I'm kind of fighting against these long animations in order to be able to sort of queue up the next thing. Like, it could be something small like that. I'm not a game dev, so I'm sort of feeling around in the dark here. It could also be something to do with, for example, the way that the movement curve kind of works in terms of when you do initiate a movement. If it's sort of slow to begin with and then you kind of lurch into place, out in the world, maybe I wouldn't notice that, because when I want to sprint across a field, I do the kind of lurch, but then I'm in motion for the whole time. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not noticing any slowdown. Whereas if I'm in a gunfight and I'm doing those lurches much more frequently, then I'm just going to be noticing lurch after lurch after lurch. Like maybe it slowly ramps up and then you're at speed. You slowly ramp up, you slowly ramp up, you slowly ramp up. That's going to feel annoying, right? So I don't know if it's something like that or if it is actual server performance or game performance or something that is causing the problem. But there is something in the game right now that feels horrible and I desperately want it fixed. I just don't know what it is. It's a feel thing. I wish I could describe it better, but it's there for me. And I just want time to stop slowing down. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. Like, I need it to feel fluid in those moments, and it doesn't. There's also been one or two other weird things. Like, there have been moments where, like, I'm on stairs and I go up a step and all the ambient sound behind me disappears, and then I go down the step again and all the ambient sound comes back. Or there's been another bug I experienced where, like, I was looking at a box and I just suddenly could see through the box, and it was like looking into the black void. It was really weird. So there's been sort of some small bugs like that, but it's an alpha. I'm confident that those are going to get ironed out. But my only other sort of feedback point in this department is about the body bags in the game. My understanding of it right now is that you get a green man on the body bag if that player is still spectating, basically. But what that means is that they might be spectating you and their team could be full dead and the player could just be spectating you, or the player's team could still be alive and so the person is spectating so they can try and get revived, right? But the problem for me, as someone that hasn't played a lot of extraction shooters in the past, is that feels like you're leaving the winning team who killed the player second guessing about whether that person is still green because they're just watching you or still green because they're watching their team. I feel like that should be signposted differently. I feel like it should be maybe you get like a yellow man when that player might be able to be revived by their teammates, but then you get a red man when the player is spectating you and their team is full dead, but they just still want to watch you because like you're cooking, right? And they're like, oh my God, this player's so good. I want to keep an eye on what they're doing, right? Like, to me, there should be some separation there. And I don't think that separation is there right now, as far as I understand it. So I'd like to see that changed if possible. So overall, I'm liking the game. It's an alpha though. And I think if I was liking it to the point that I'm like, oh, it's a 9 out of 10 in alpha form, that would almost be a bit weird, because like it means that going from alpha to full game, like it could only go up 1 point on the scale, right? Which would seem odd to me. Like when they're going to put in all these puzzles and these extra factions and more loot and like they're going to juice the game up, it's going to perform better and like blah, blah, blah. That surely should be able to move the game more than just 1 point on the scale, right? So I would be concerned if I was sitting here right now going, yeah, it's a 9 out of 10, guys, guaranteed. Like that would be concerning. So I would actually sort of more so describe it as Marathon is basically in the exact sort of place that I expected it to be at this stage, which is basically a pretty confident 7. And I know that some people are going to hear that and they're going to completely misconstrue what I'm saying and think that I think the final game is a 7 out of 10, boring, uninteresting, not worth your time, like, and then there's all those sort of rage baiters that are like, oh, it's Concord. Like, those people are silly. It's just silly. That stuff is genuinely silly. But I think that for the folks that are hearing 7 and thinking, oh God, that's 70% on Metacritic, and that means that it's like just another video game this year, why would I play that instead of playing any other game that's going to be coming out? And I would want to stress, I don't want to be misunderstood here. I think that this will be above a 7, or at least I hope it will be above a 7, once it's a full game. I'm just talking about it as alpha stage. It's about a 7 out of 10. It's good. It's fun. I've sunk a lot of hours into it already, and I want to sink more in. And that's a really good sign. I'm also the sort of person that doesn't sink a huge amount of time into games, usually, unless it really feels like there is something there that is drawing me towards it. Like, I'm not the sort of person that will just play a game just to play a game. That's not how I operate. But I do really want to play more Marathon, and I want to see that high-tier loot, and I want to go on those streaks, and I want to get those, like, 0 to heroes. Like, I want to do those things, and if this was an end product, feature complete game once it's gone gold, and it was still only like a 6 or a 7, I wouldn't be feeling that. Do you know what I mean? Like at that point, I'd be like, well, like if it's like a 6 when it's final, I've got better things to do. Do you know what I mean? Whereas right now, I'm like, it's alpha and it's already a 7. This is very promising. So I enjoy the game. There's things that I would like to see improved. There's things that I'm kind of brushing up against, and it's feeling like I'm brushing up against some friction there because of the fact that partly I'm not an extraction shooter kind of guy. Like, I don't rinse this game mode all the time. I'm not a big Tarkov player. I haven't played tons of other extraction shooters. So I'm new to it, right? So there's some friction there, and there's some things in the genre that I clearly am like, oh, I don't know if I like this. But I'm liking Marathon overall, and I really do look forward to seeing it get further updates, and the beta, obviously, as well. I'll be streaming it more during the alpha, but I've got other Destiny things that I need to cover too, so we're going to be juggling things here a bit. But yeah, it's going well so far, and I look forward to seeing Bungie continue to cook on it in the future. That's actually maybe worth talking about real quick here. The access side of things, it's not been great, right? I think Bungie have been in a tough spot. I do want to dig into this a bit, because I think there's been quite a lot of confusion here. Bungie were originally planning for this to be a closed alpha, right? And so they weren't expecting the general public to all be seeing the game and therefore all be wanting access. And Bungie got a lot of feedback from people that were signing up for the closed alpha that the NDA didn't make sense and they wanted it to be open alpha. Or they wanted it to be a non-NDA'd alpha, I should say. See, even I'm getting my wording mixed up here. And so Bungie said, okay, we'll drop the NDA, but it is still a closed alpha. And I think the problem is the general public don't know what a closed alpha is. Like, video games don't do closed alphas, or at least they don't do closed alphas without an NDA. Like, it's so rare to see that in the industry these days, especially for like AAA shooters. And so it's meant that there are tons of people seeing the game on Twitch and they're going, oh, is this game out now? Oh, how do I play it? Like, obviously that would be the conclusion that they would come to. If people are just playing it on Twitch, like, okay, cool, how do I play, right? But then they're being told, oh, you have to sign up with a form and basically you can't get access. And like, maybe you'll get, like, it's really confusing. And I don't think this is entirely Bungie's fault because of the fact that they lifted the NDA because of player feedback, right? And creator feedback and press feedback and community feedback. And so like they've tried to do what the community wanted, but it's then meant that new community members are now unhappy, where they wouldn't have been unhappy previously if it was just a closed alpha with an NDA, because they wouldn't have even known it was happening. So it's almost like people are upset, but people are more upset because they know they don't have access than they would have been if they just didn't know that it was happening at all. Do you know what I mean? It's almost the feeling that other people getting access feels worse than nobody getting access. Like, because of the unfairness element. You know what I mean? So I think Bungie have been in a tough spot here. I've seen a lot of disgruntled creators not getting access as well. Overall, I have sympathy for both sides, to be completely frank. Like, I think the creators that were like getting press kits, for example, and were part of the marketing and stuff for the build up to this alpha, then not getting codes at the start of the alpha would feel weird, right? Like, you've done your part. You're not getting paid by Bungie or something, but you've done your part to try and contribute to the success of the launch, and then you're not part of the launch. Like, I can get how that would feel frustrating. And then similarly, for viewers and fans and the wider community, the exact same feeling applies where, like, we were all part of the AIG. It wasn't just creators, right? Like, everybody was all doing it together. It was really a community movement. And so to do that and then not get access is a little bit like, well, this kind of sucks. So I really do have sympathy for both sides of the equation there. And my hope, basically, is that for the last, 5 days or something of the alpha, Bungie basically says, all right, we're just going to let it rip. We're just going to let everybody in. And I know that that was not their intention, but I think that that is probably the best way to build some goodwill here. And then the real floodgates can open with an open beta at some later date. But I just feel like give people the last weekend. Give people, I mean, it ends on the 4th, I believe. So give us like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday with everybody getting access. I think that would make a ton of sense and would hopefully help alleviate some of the frustration that those disgruntled people have of not being given access, even though they like signed up the first minute of the form going live or whatever, right? So those are my thoughts. Leave a comment with your thoughts as well. I'd be very interested to see them all, and I'll see you very soon for more marathon streams, probably on Twitch. All right, see you there. Bye for now.